Hello and welcome to Bottom Line. Well, when Nagaland celebrated its statehood day earlier this week, the focus clearly yet again was on the Naga Peace talks. We all know that there have been a lot of developments as far as the issue of peace talks is concerned in the last few days. We have statements, the statehood day speech coming in from Governor R.N. Ravi, where he said certain things, how a solution, what sort of solution they're looking into. We had the NSCNIM releasing statements. We had a meeting with between the NNPGs and Governor and Peace interlocutor R.N. Ravi, after which the NNPGs also released a statement. So a lot of conflicting, if you can say quote-unquote conflicting statements coming out, creating some sort of also a confusion at this time as far as the status of the peace talks is concerned. But we should not also forget that Chief Minister Nephew Rio was again very hopeful in his statehood day speech about the current status of the peace talks. He also clearly mentioned that a breakthrough as far as the common ground has been achieved in the peace talks, and the solution, one solution can be achieved very, very soon. But despite this, the statements that have come out from the NSCNIM, and then we had the meeting between the NNPGs and R.N. Ravi, has yet again raised the question that is there a risk of again the issue of this Naga political issue getting lingered once again. We all know that the talks officially concluded October last year, October 2019, and hopes were that by February, probably by February 2020, the agreement will be inked, but that could not happen. Of course, the pandemic had a role to play in this, but again now things have been set rolling by the center. We have newer faces also getting involved in the entire peace talks issue. But again, as I mentioned, doubt still persists if there is a risk of the issue once again getting delayed. To discuss further on this, I am being joined from Kohima by Kekongchim Yimchung. He is the ENPO President. A very warm welcome, sir. I also have with me Ndang, General Secretary Naga Hobo. A very warm welcome to you, sir. From Shillong, I am being joined by Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, Professor NEHU, who has been closely following every development regarding the Naga Peace talks. A very warm welcome to all of you, gentlemen. If I can go straight to the ENPO President, Mr. Kekongchim. Well, sir, what is your assessment of the way things are currently as far as the peace talks are concerned? We have had developments in the last couple of months and even the last couple of days, a lot of developments. So what is your assessment of the way things are right now, Mr. Kekongchim?
You see, I really appreciate the government of India and then all the negotiating parties, that is both the NSNIM and then NNPG, in regard to the Naga political talks. These talks have been going on for quite a long time, and what I feel is, if at all both the parties are serious, I think there should not be any problem. Maybe yes, there may be a little bit of differences among them to satisfy each other, like expression and all. But having come such a long way negotiating between them, I think there should not be any problem and any misunderstanding, if at all, both the NSNIM, NNPG and then Government of India, if at all they are serious to resolve this Naga political issue, I think minor differences can be sorted out by sitting across the table. And then if both the parties are serious, and small
minute differences you say will come to that. Minute differences you say most people may not agree. We will come to that. But Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, the same question I would like to put across to you. What is your assessment of the status of things at the moment?
At the moment, there is again a kind of stalemate, a new stalemate about the constitution and the flag issue. To my mind, as I have argued always, Indian constitution is an inclusive, accommodative document, and it is possible to accommodate the aspiration of the Naga struggle by amending certain clauses, by introducing a new schedule, and by ensuring that the autonomy question of Nagas can be properly addressed within the four corners of constitution. As far as the flag issue is concerned, a flag will not make much of a difference if it is called a flag for Nagas or Naga struggle, this will not be in conflict with the national flag, because it's not going to be national flag of India, but it is going to be the flag of the Nagas. So there are ways and means of negotiating these difficult issues within the four corners of our constitution without distorting the right to equality, fundamental right, right to dignity, human rights, and political, social, cultural, and economic rights of Nagas in connection with the rights of others. Is possible to negotiate all these rights claims within the four corners of constitution. Therefore, the peace talk must go ahead. The issues which are contentious needs to be talked across the table by bringing in new and fresh perspectives all the time, which are arising from the ground and which will represent various stakeholders from within the Naga society.
Ndang, we will come to what Dr. Prasenjit Biswas just mentioned. We'll come to that in details. But again, do you personally think things have become a bit hazy in the last 3-4 days, or do you think it's still the same? Such statements have already been there, and we all know for the last couple of months or more this has been the stand. The NSA and I am sticking with the flag and constitution demand, and of course we have the other statements that have been coming. But do you think since the last few days, especially with the Statehood Day speeches and the subsequent release of statements by NSC and IM, do you think things have again become a touch uncertain, or do you think it's still on track as Chief Minister NEHU Rio had indicated?
Nabarun.
Yeah.
As far as the issue of flag and constitution is concerned, the people need to understand that flag and constitution does not talk about NSC and IM alone. Flag and constitution is all about the Naga people and its identity. So if you look at the earlier agreements or resolutions with reference to 16-point agreement and creation of statehood, you see Naga people have rejected to be within the Constitution of India. And that is the reason why the movement continues. And government of India having fully convinced that Nagas have every right to pursue its movements. Now the government of India has taken cognizance of the Naga people, and it has entered into a ceasefire agreement and the recent framework agreement. Now, if we are to go back and talk about the constitution and solution within the framework of the Constitution of India, I think things are going back to square one. Therefore, government of India have already admitted, and it has already announced officially that Naga political talks will be resolved between two entities, and we are looking forward that things will resolve as per the commitment of the Honorable Prime Minister of India. And secondly, the interlocutor talking about solution at the same time glorifying the 16-point agreement and the statehood. I think the interlocutor is unbecoming of himself, and he has forgotten his role. He has taken the talks to this level. He is the one who signed the framework agreement, and today he is contradicting the whole statements and the whole agreement, which is very unfortunate, and we are so disturbed by his statement. And in fact, he is misleading the general public, which he should not be doing it. And as all of us are pursuing for a peaceful and meaningful solution, we believe government of India will sincerely stand by its commitment, and we are very hopeful that things will develop in the best interest of the two entities.
Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, is the dilemma getting a bit bigger here? Of course, we can see the bone of contention, but again, if we go back, also if we go back in recent times, there has been always been reservations as far as the government of India is concerned on the issue of flag and constitution. What could be the way forward now? Because what we are getting to understand is that, things were mobilized once again of late in the last couple of months, last 2-3 months, and the status of the peace talks is still positive, even though we are saying officially the talks have ended in October last year, but discussions, the status is still positive. There is a lot of hope, and we have seen it from across stakeholders, but do you think the dilemma is getting a bit bigger here, and what could be the way forward?
Yes, the dilemma is somewhat more at the level of settling it in a constitutional manner. That's one level of dilemma. The second level of dilemma is to accommodate warring factions, conflicting factions, which still remain in the Naga social and cultural life. How does one bring all these stakeholders together on a common agenda? Has to be worked out. The common agenda of bringing together a solution or a peace process is still not entirely done. So this remains a certain kind of a gap at the bottom level. At the top level, there is constitutional issue. So both these levels need to be addressed in the form of a discussion, although the broader framework is worked out. Now, if we look at the broader framework did not negate the possibility of a flag or a constitution. The broader framework did not assert specific demands of flag and the constitution, but it did not negate them. So things lie somewhere in between, and this in-between space needs to be explored in the form of a vigorous dialogue, in the form of understanding each other's issues and problems, and how these issues and problems can be mutually resolved to the satisfaction of all the parties by way of mutual trust, reciprocation, argumentation, counter-argumentation, so that from every side better reasons can prevail over reasons which are not fully formed, and therefore one has to take a constitutional course of a kind of a new constitutional interpretation, which I would like to call new constitutionalism, which is entirely required to resolve the Naga issue, or else time and again we are falling back from the solution. Solution is seen in the horizon, yet we are not able to arrive at the solution because we are not able to tread through this difficult process of constitutional negotiation. So that requires an expert holding. Constitutional experts need to be brought into picture now at this point of time, along with the Naga stakeholders. Only then probably the stalemate can be resolved.
Well, Mr. Kekongchim, again, you just mentioned some minor issues. Some minor issues have to be ignored, have to be resolved. But then, what we are talking about may not be a minor issue for everyone, as we just heard. Again, there are stakeholders and civil society groups who say that there is nothing called minor issue when it comes to the peace talks, and that there is no going forward on the peace talks unless these are resolved. The groups and bodies are very firm on that. So, and we all know what I'm talking about. What is your take on this stand?
You see, as far as ENPO is concerned, we don't want to talk about the flag, constitution and all, because the main agenda, the main focus on how ENPO is moving ahead is we want both the negotiating parties, that is both the NSN, IM and then NNPG, to come together. And because even if we talk about whatever subject matter it is, if there's no unity among the Nagas, that is especially the Naga political groups, we don't see any like peaceful and tangible Naga political solution. So the topmost priority as far as ENPO is concerned, we want all the negotiating parties to come together, and maybe because we say that there's only one Naga solution. There cannot be any two Naga political solution, and there cannot be two agreement. So the topmost priority of the ENPO is this group should come together and seek for what is the best solution and what is best for the Nagas. Yes, like there are major issues also which we understand. But these things, I think sitting across the table, bringing all the groups together, bringing all the stakeholders together, and if we can sit across the table, I think the best thing and the best can be hammered out. That is what we feel. Yes, like there are so many organizations, even among the Nagas also, but you see, there are hardly times when we sit across the table and like just giving in the press, giving counters and counter claims or statements. I think that is not going to solve the problem. Unless we sit together, share our minds or share the difficulties that one is facing, I think we can bring to a logical conclusion. That is what I feel.
Sitting together, very important, as you have rightly mentioned. The NNPGs and the NSCN-IM have to come together. Mr. Kekongchim, they have to come together and even in the consultative meeting that was called by the government of Nagaland and chaired by Chief Minister Rio, it stressed that the NNPGs and the NSCN-IM should come together, sit across the table. How challenging do you think it is still to get these two entities, two groups to get them sit across the table, because it's extremely important?
You see, technically speaking, you see, I think if we are all determined, or if at all we are serious in solving Naga issue, it should not be that challenging. That is what I feel, because we are all Nagas, and we are going to a place where the aspiration of the Nagas are to be met. So whichever group they may belong, political group they may belong, the ideology is same, that they are all working for the Nagas. So if we are serious about solving the Naga issue or bring about the better future for the Nagas, I think it should not be that challenging.
Should not be that difficult. Ndang, we are all aware that of the stance of the NSCN-IM and the working committee of the NNPGs on the issue. Well, there is a growing expectation and hope that both will sooner than later sit together across the table. Don't you think that is the need of the hour, despite everything? Despite the fact that they might have different stands, don't you think it's a need of the hour? Probably a middle ground may emerge, but that will only happen if they start communicating and communicating well. And it's the need of the hour, as Mr. Kekongchim already mentioned. After all, it's concerning the future of the Nagas and decades of sacrifices. Can we see that happen soon?
Yeah, absolutely, it is necessary for the two groups to come together. And this is the general wishes of the Naga people, that the two negotiating groups should come together, sit across the table, and sort out the differences. Yes, we do respect their positions. In any movement, definitely there will be differences of views, opinions, and ideologies. But our objective as a Naga is one. And therefore, there is no reason why they should be stubborn and they should avoid one another. It's time now that both the parties come together in the interest of the people, bury their differences, and for the sake of Naga people, for one side, come and sit together and sort it out. And definitely we are hopeful that the two groups will sit together.
Absolutely. If I can go back to Mr. Kekongchim, well, it is now quite evident. In fact, there have been reports and indications that the solution to the Naga issue may not be limited to the state of Nagaland. Let's be honest about it. Do you think under the circumstances, maybe the focus should be on coming up with an agreement first and pursue some issues afterwards, if at all that is practical, because it is quite evident that the solution would be beyond the state of Nagaland.
You see, whatever it may be, as we have stated, this issue is not pertaining only to the state of Nagaland. It's a Naga issue. So Nagas living across the present Nagaland state, they are all included. That's why, because it is struggle of the Nagas. So you see, as I've stated earlier, you see, when government of India is serious, when both the negotiating parties, that is the NSNIM and the NNPG group, are serious in solving this Naga issue, I think just by giving counter statement in the media or accusing each other in the media, that is not going to solve the problem until and unless we come together. If we keep on accusing in the media against each other, the gap will widen again and we cannot come to a logical conclusion. So the best way what I can appeal, and I want to appeal to all the group, is instead of giving claims and counter claims or statements in the media, why don't we sit across the table together and sort out all the misunderstanding? Because what I understand may not be understood by others, and what they understand may not be understood by me also. So in that way, that perception that miscommunication will be like miscommunication will not go wider. But if you just keep on accusing in the media, the gap will widen and there will not be any conclusion. So I think the best thing is, if at all I am talking again and again, if at all we are serious to have a very logical conclusion to this Naga political issue, everyone should come together and sit across the table and sort out differences, if any, among them.
Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, we all, I'm sure, know by now or assume by now that there is more to the Naga peace talks, more to what has been discussed and agreed upon than what is in the public domain right now. But do you think this stalemate of sorts, quote-unquote stalemate over the issue of flag and constitution is in a way undermining, or rather should I say in a way not allowing the other factors to come in the public domain, which may help achieve the solution faster, solution earlier, because it's kind of stuck here right now on the issue of flag and constitution. But there are several other factors, several other plans in place, and there is no discussion, no talks on them as such.
Yes, I mean, flag and constitution issues have overridden other issues, issues like an administrative setup that is required to resolve the Naga struggle. Now, what will be the nature of that administrative setup, which is fleshed out in the framework agreement? We don't know exactly the terms of the administrative setup, but we can imagine that the administrative setup would involve several other states where autonomy and independence of Nagas would be recognized in terms of their internal sovereignty. So this is a kind of a complex process of articulating Naga aspiration through legal and constitutional means. Now, if we have done so much, what is the problem in taking the next step of recognizing Naga struggle as a whole, as a chapter, as a schedule in the Constitution of India? If we can do that, that doesn't really breach or subvert or circumvent the constitutional provisions, especially the basic structure of the Indian Constitution is not affected by it. Rather, basic structure and the principles enshrined in basic structure get enumerated, get clarified in the case of Nagas, which will show a new direction to the entire Northeast, and the insurgency in the Northeast could be tackled by using constitution. I think that is the best way forward, and it requires a certain kind of a collective work, a kind of rumination, a reference back to the history, and also an articulation for the future. Now, unless we take the holistic picture of what went behind and what is going to come, unless these two things are taken together, we cannot really arrive at an acceptable position of a solution. So we need to work out a little more why we are dithering in working out the next logical step. We need to work out the next logical step to solve the constitutional puzzle that is emanating from the Naga history.
Absolutely. We'll have to go for a very, very short break here. Please stay on and we'll also discuss, later in the show, we'll also discuss the ILP issue in Meghalaya, so stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Bottom Line. We are discussing the Naga issue. If I can go back to Mr. Kekongchim once again. Well, we have heard this narrative, Mr. Kekongchim, that yes, there's a need for early solution, but it doesn't mean that there'll be compromise on any of the aspects. What is your take on that? Early solution, but no compromise.
Certain things that I don't get, they may be, yes, there are certain issues which are very dear to Nagas, and there are certain issues why Nagas, the reason why Nagas have started the national movement in the 50s is based on the expression, certain expression that Naga wants to be. So even the government of India should also take the aspiration of the Nagas. They have to, maybe they cannot fully satisfy 100% the Naga's aspiration, but at least they should, the most important points, there may be some which Nagas want to acquire. So even the government of India should also respect the sentiments of the Nagas. That is what I feel.
Mr. Ndang, don't you think it's once again time that someone has to budge a bit to ensure that things get rolling again if they are not, so that the stalemate is broken? Again, we have to also understand that while one section, or as you say, the wish of the Naga people is on the flag and the constitution, but again we also have had statements coming in where people are asked to be aware of stakeholders and elements who are trying to mislead the people. Again, showing that unity among all stakeholders is probably still a far cry. 23 years of negotiations, over 20 years of negotiations, unity among stakeholders is still a far cry. So, that is also a bit unfortunate maybe at this point in time that we are discussing this. But at the same time, don't you think somebody has to once again budge a bit to get things rolling?
Yeah, absolutely. It is necessary and it is important to remain united, and unity is one the most important aspect. But you see, in any movement, we cannot expect 100% unity. There will always be differences of views and opinions. Now, in this negotiation, we understand that there are lots of divisions within the Naga society which we cannot rule out. But at the same time, Nagas as a family, definitely there will be some differences. The government of India should not bank on this unity. Government of India should perform its duty as committed. There are a lot of organizations, individuals expressing its own views and opinions. That does not mean that Nagas are not united. That does not mean that Nagas doesn't want unity. Government of India should spell out as per its commitment. Naga movement started because we have our goal, we have our commitment towards a sovereign nation. And that is where we stand united. Even today, Naga people still stand by it. But unfortunately, there are lots of agencies that is playing against the people, against the minds of the people. And that's where divisions have taken place. But that has never deterred the Naga aspiration to live as one people.
Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, again, contradictory statements coming out from among the stakeholders is something probably that has to stop very soon. Of course, there is a reason for it, as we can see, and probably that is the reason why, say, the NSCNIM and the NNPGs have not sat across the table so far. But what is the way out? How to break this stalemate? Unless this happens, let's face it, probably we would not see a solution soon unless the NSCNIM and the NNPG sit across soon.
Yes, to make them sit across, probably first of all there should be a background work, a track to dialogue to settle the common agenda and the agreed points of positions that both the sides are taking. Now, in the colorful history of Naga struggle since 1928, there has always been a set of people who have been opposed to the mainstream Naga struggle for national determination. And these people who oppose Naga struggle, they have been an instrument in the hands of certain forces who are not exactly congenial to Naga aspirations. Even now, that tradition continues in a certain way. The chinks, the cracks, and the differences that we see between Naga civil society groups and the main struggling group of NSCNIM or NSCNK can be resolved provided there is a sincere mediation between them. So who will mediate between Naga groups? Can Naga social workers, Naga thinkers, intellectuals, intelligentsia, political leadership mediate between Naga social groups? Answer is both yes and no. Yes, to the extent that a common agenda can be worked out, and no to the extent that Nagas are not going to listen to each other unless they agree with each other. So in such a context, the whole talk has to be conducted in a manner that people talk more, they understand each other's perspective, and there is a mutual agreement at the end of the talk. Now, this is not coming through. That is the challenge, and we are still facing this challenge.
Ndang, why I was stressing on the unity point is because, well, we have been talking, you just said the government of India cannot bank on Naga unity, but why we have been stressing on the unity point is because that seems a necessity. That seems a necessity at the moment to break the stalemate. So how long can we wait for that, and why is it so difficult? Why is it so difficult? After all, it is about the aspirations of the Nagas, and as civil society groups, as even any, be it the NGOs, civil societies, leaders, the elders, why can't there be a movement? Unity is needed. You may say whatever, unity between the groups is required. It is amply clear that as long as that doesn't happen, we may not be seeing a solution any soon.
Yeah, let me clarify this. Unity in purpose is a paramount factor now. When I said that unity, government of India should not bank on unity, I was rather referring to the stakeholders. Now, negotiators, the two negotiating groups, the NNPGs and the NSCNIM, definitely they have to come together and sit across the table. They may agree to disagree. Till then, they have to come and sit across the table, because government of India talks about one solution, one agreement, and therefore they have to come together and sit across. Well, the second thing what I was trying to say is the stakeholders or the civil societies or the Naga public, as I mentioned earlier, there will be differences of views and opinions, but that does not keep us away from our goal as a Naga people.
Absolutely. Mr. Kekongchim, Well, generations of Nagas have made immense sacrifices for a solution, for this solution. Is it not very important that this opportunity is not missed at any cost as much as possible? Any differences should be kept aside. Of course, that there shouldn't be compromise, but again, it is extremely important, don't you think, to ensure that there is no further delay, there is no lingering to the solution anymore.
You see, I will just concentrate on the area of ENPO. ENPO people have been suffering and are suffering a lot, and we don't want to continue this for another decade. And for any human resource development, which ENPO people are lacking, I think the ultimate requirement for any peaceful development is peace. So ENPO people are fed up with violence, and at any cost, ENPO people feel that there should be peace. And we have to put an end to this all kind of violence so that ENPO people can also see a brighter future, at least for the coming generation. So by any means, this Naga political solution has to be settled at the earliest, taking the aspiration of the Nagas and respecting each other's sentiments, because if we negotiate and sign an agreement without taking into consideration the sentiments of the others, it will not going to solve the problem. So government of India should also take the aspiration, the feeling of the Nagas into consideration while solving the Naga political issue, and we have to come at the earliest. That is what we do.
Absolutely, absolutely. Point taken. Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, ideally, what can be the way forward to break this stalemate now? Can there be more clarity? Can there be more clarity, at least for the people? Because everyone may get impatient now. It's been high time. When the talks officially ended, quote unquote, officially ended in October last year, there was an impression that maybe by January or February 2020 a solution would be inked. That has not happened. Again, if there is further delay, a lot of impatience may creep in. What could be the way forward? Of course, you have mentioned a lot of ways, but then it's very important something happens sooner than later.
Yes, we have to still discuss how to implement the framework agreement. You know, the question of unification of Naga inhabited areas, and to unify it in a manner that the existing boundaries of the states are not altered or breached. And in that, there are a lot of contentious issues, because some of the states are of the opinion that there cannot be an interstate political arrangement or administrative setup which will curb the authority of a state. So there is a kind of a conflict here, conflict between the notion of a state and also the idea of an administrative setup that is there in the framework agreement. Now this needs to be discussed properly. The second question is that of territoriality of the Naga struggle, the kind of the imagination of the Naga limb which is projected by the NSCNIM, whether Naga limb would include, let's say, Eastern Naga People's Organization, whether Naga limb would include the Northern Nagas and the Southern Nagas and the Western Nagas and the Eastern Nagas, how they would all be brought together in the form of a political process of representation, representing their political and cultural rights and other aspirations, also needs to be worked out. So we need to still work out on the framework agreement. We need to work out several schedules, several modules, several steps, several workable rules and regulations.
So a long way to go still? A long way to go still?
Can be implemented.
A long way to go still then, Dr. Biswas?
Not a long way. It's a short way of intensive work which is not happening. That's why it looks like a long way. We have crossed and traversed this whole history of Naga struggle a long way, and we have come to certain agreements and understanding, but it is not being worked out. It needs to be worked out by a working group, which is not happening. So therefore, one has to approach it a little more systematically, constitutionally, legally, politically, and also methodically, which is not happening. And therefore, it is looking like something that is put in abeyance all the time.
Mr. Ndang, after years of negotiations and when things looked to be settling in, are there apprehensions once again among the stakeholders, among the people? What is your assessment?
Well, more than 23 years of negotiation has taken place. People are being given assurance time and again, but so far nothing is happening. But we have not lost hope. Naga people still look up to the government of India to fulfill its commitment. Yes, the issue is complicated, and therefore it has taken many years, but we never lost hope because we believe that both government of India and the Naga negotiators will bring out the best for the people, both for the people of India and the Naga people.
Again,
we are still hopeful. We are still hopeful for the best.
Yeah. My last question to you, Mr. Ndang, again, sacrifices of more than 3 generations. Again, can we let this opportunity go? That's what I meant by should somebody budge to set things rolling, because there's a lot at stake. There's a lot at stake, and you have to also keep in mind that still there is no complete unity among the stakeholders as well. So history shouldn't look unkindly at anyone who has been involved in this entire struggle, because everybody has been doing their best. So do you think, again I'm repeating myself here, this opportunity cannot be let gone?
Yes. Naga people believe that this is the best opportunity to have a permanent solution. We are fortunate that the government of India, under the able leadership of Honorable Prime Minister of India, Sri Narendra Modi, he has given a very committed statement. We Naga people still look up to his commitment, and we cannot afford to miss this opportunity. And in this, I think both the Naga people and the government of India must work towards a permanent solution through its commitment, through its sincerity, and through mutual respect.
Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, last remarks from you.
I think that the question of unification and territorial integration of the Naga inhabited areas needs to be given a certain priority, and this priority needs to be articulated in terms of the segmental rights, the segmental right of representation, the question of economic development in various areas and sub-territories within the Naga territory, so that each group gets a satisfactory part of the cake. Once that kind of a distributional mechanism is worked out in concrete economic and political terms, it will be possible to bring out a meaning for integrating Naga inhabited areas without breaching the existing structures of the governments at various states like Manipur, Arunachal Pradesh and Assam. So this needs a bit of a working out. I remember that the constitutional expert Professor Yash Ghai back in 1996 carried out such a negotiation in Brussels and in Geneva in the early phase of Naga ceasefire. I think that kind of a modularity needs to be brought back, looking back at the history. So there are many things in Naga history from where we should take cues for solving the current problems, which are very much endemic, arising from differences that are remaining between groups.
Absolutely. Well, we all hope that things again get rolling. We have a solution very soon. Of course, there have been also a lot of positive developments of late. And as Chief Minister Rio mentioned in his State Day speech, he is quite confident. He is hopeful, rather, that a solution will be there soon. Again, he also called out for unity among all stakeholders for that one solution which generations of Nagas have been waiting for. Thank you so much, Mr. Ndang, Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, Mr. Kekongchim, for joining me on this discussion and giving your valuable inputs.